God. The Big G. Love him or hate her, they are the mostest powerful beings of them all. Gods. All powerful, all knowing, all forgiving, and loves us humans, like most gods. They love us humans, man. Big time. So much, in fact, that they made a place for us where we can hang out after we hang out here. And we had to hang out with the Big G. Well, most of those religions, they talk about that place. And the one that I'll talk about is that one called Heaven. The Big G, my Big G. Apparently, it is some prime real estate, more like most heavens. Though I haven't met anyone that's been there, but I do know that there are bouncers there and that they are strict as f***. Because to get into the club called Heaven, you're screened at the door by Heaven's bouncers, and you got to tick all the boxes if you're going to come in, or you got to know the secret password. And what God does to make sure that there aren't any problems in his club, because he's not having any fights at his place at all. So what he did was he made a bunch of rules. He was good enough to apparently give us those rules so as his boys and girls that have the faith can make sure that they can stick to those rules down here, so there won't be a problem up at his place. It's like a pre-screen to get into the door, the club where G is. And this is where the conundrum comes along, the Heaven conundrum. From looking at it through the eyes of just this human being a bouncer, senior bouncer, it gives me the ability to look at this problem and not have to be a religious scholar or a priest. You see, if I'm working for the G, one of his guys, his place, and I'm working the door up front at the gates with, Peter and that, I'm looking at who God has said let in, which is pretty easy. No aliens, just humans. Now, he does a whole bunch of rules to filter the crowd. Now, a lot of them are like bullshit, but the contract for working gates at crowd control is that G is really, really fucking particular and there's very little movement of about 10 of those rules. So much, in fact, he called it a command. He said, you little humans, you better do this shit. And these 10, as the work story goes, is that he met up with his mate, right, on top of some fucking mountain. And his mate was he's fucking getting old. He was like real old. I think it was the early onset of Alzheimer's. Anyway, God called him up and says, hey, get up this mountain. I want to chat with you for a second. And he says, like, bring a pen and paper because I want you to make some notes. And God was pissed as apparently the old fella was meant to bring a pen and paper and take those notes, but forgot that. So luckily, God had a couple of tombstones lying around, and he said, here, and he gave him a pebble. He says, here, use this. And the old fellow was like, well, that's going to take ages. So God said, right, let's start and make sure you get them all, as I hate repeating myself. And Moses said, okay, go. And God started reeling off these rules for us humans. And Moses started scratching away on the tombstone that looked like a tablet. And God made rule after rule after rule and just kept going. And after about an hour and a half of speaking, God said, and rule number 1065 is, wait a minute. Hey, bro. And God spoke to Moses and said, bro, am I speaking too fast? Well, where are you up to? And Moses replied back, 10. And God was like, 10 what? And Moses said, I'm up to rule number 10. And God bellowed back, what 10? How useless are you? Can you not go any slower? And Moses yelled back, well, it would help if I didn't have just a pebble and a stone. And God bellowed back, fuck, you're useless. And it was so loud that the old guy's hair turned white and he shit his pants and said, oh, Jesus Christ. And God said, hey, I like that. I might use that later. Anyways, that is how we got the main rules of living on Earth, and prepping us for the club upstairs so we could kick it with the Big G. The thing is, with those rules, and when humans get to the pearly gates and get screened by the bouncers of heaven, heaps of them break those rules, do some real dumb shit, and some of them don't even pray until it's time for God to help them out, usually on a battlefield or in a hospital room. Now, here's the thing. God is the owner of the club, and there is no violence in his club at all. The bouncers up there are really, really good at what they do. His club, his rules. And now, here's the thing. He's really lax when it comes to letting it slide and letting the old human in. As he tells the boys at the door, the bouncers at heaven, as long as they're not too pissed, let them in. And for the ones that have done some dumb shit, you'll know that I said it was okay to let them in, as I've given them a secret password. Sorry. So when they get to the gates and the bouncers are checking the list and ticking the boxes, keeping the crowds in line, and if they rock up certain boxes that are ticked, the bouncers say, nah, and wait to see if God has given them a password. Sorry. Oh yeah, okay. And the bouncers will always say, come on in, but just remember, no fights. Got a problem? You come and see us. Because if you get kicked out, you don't get back in. Very strict. Very, very strict. Now, here's the thing. The bouncers up there working the door to make sure that there's no fights in heaven. What they do is to make sure that there ain't no fights or stabbings. They don't let the pedos or the murderers in. When they rock up and those boxes get ticked and they say, oh yeah, but I got the magic word to get in, and they say they're sorry and start to walk on in, they get clotheslined. They get slammed, and the bouncers in heaven will drag them out in front of the club and say, mate, you're barred from entering, and they hand them the trespass notice. They always ask, well, how long am I trespass for? And the bouncers just love saying it, almost like a prayer really, because they always answer, oh, that's forever and ever, amen. And that, well, that is how it all works. So the heaven can be heaven, and that's why there's no fights in heaven. Not since the big brawl where Satan and the boys got his ass kicked. Apparently got his ass kicked real bad. But from then on, no more fights at all. Now, that also leads me on to these next humans, because you see, they got the magic word, and they think that as soon as they get to the gates of heaven, that they can waltz on in. Oh, we have a surprise for them. First up is this guy whose balls never dropped. Floors. And what did this waste of space do? Well, he decided in his wisdom to make another human being his property, and her name was B.R.A.W.L Calderon, and she had spent 28 years of her life given to her by her God to walk upon, live upon, and love upon this earth with her whānau in relative peace and harmony, until that harmony turned out to be harm, and that peace turned into pieces because along came a spider and crawled up inside her. You see, in 2008, B.R.A.W.L and DC were not dating anymore, but being the kind of person that God made, she, on his 32nd birthday, had gone to DC's apartment so that he wouldn't be alone on his birthday. And when she got there, he brutally murdered her and took God's being. Because you see, God wasn't there on that day. He was busy with some other shit. So Floors here came up with his J for Genius plan, which was to chop her up and then place her in plastic bags, then drove to a place where he had been working on that was vacant house at the time, and placed her body parts behind a false wall. But then you see, God did turn up, late as usual, very busy guy, in the form of someone seeing DC on the vacant property. And ultimately that led to him being arrested. And while this DC was going to court and being dealt with, he doesn't feel that feeling of remorse. The statement, oh dear God, what have I done, doesn't exist for him. No, you see, this clown believes that he's got the password. This DC is under the belief that all he has to do when he gets up there in front of those boys at the gates is tell those boys the secret password and they will let him in. This DC Floors has always been happy about the fact that he's got that magic password and that he's going to get in. Forever and ever. Amen.
Today, Julio Flores will lose some excess items in his cell.
Knock it up.
Inmates are only allowed 2 pencils. Anything over that is confiscated.
Pencils do you think you lost here today?
Alright. I lose like 6-7 pencils. It's very important, the pencils.
Flores relies on pencils to create his art. It brings a small touch of beauty to an otherwise stark jail cell. He says it's a talent he only discovered in prison.
God helped me to draw. I never draw in this way. God really showed me his favor, even when you are a killer.
Flores may believe his art comes from God, but says he was on his own 5 years earlier, when he strangled his 28-year-old ex-girlfriend.
I remember the word she said, God, give me another chance.
While you were choking her?
Yeah. I said, God is not here.
Flores killed his ex-girlfriend inside his Bronx, New York apartment. He pled guilty to second-degree murder and received a sentence of 19 years to life in a New York State prison. But now he has been extradited to New Jersey to stand trial for a related crime.
So why are you in New Jersey?
For bringing the members human.
The body parts?
Body parts, try to hiding.
Flores admits that after he murdered his victim, he dismembered her body.
When I finished to kill her, and the woman says, what are you gonna do now? Because something on me come in my mind and says, you know what? Now you gotta disappear the body.
Flores placed the body parts inside plastic bags and drove them to a vacant home in Bergen County, New Jersey. He then placed the bags inside buckets.
How many buckets?
4 buckets plus the big buckets, 5 buckets for all. I used the cement too, concrete, to put, all over in the buckets.
The owner of the house happened to stop by, found Flores in the front yard, and questioned him.
I said, "Listen, man, I got somebody there." So look at me. What? Yeah, I killed my ex-girlfriend yesterday.
Now, in addition to his conviction for second-degree murder, Flores is charged in Bergen County with desecration of human remains.
Ahora pues ninguna condenación hay para los que están en Cristo Jesús.
Though he's openly admitted to the act, this time he's pled not guilty and will soon stand trial. He says God led him to that decision.
That's out of it, eh? God is apparently giving free legal advice to this Muppet. You kind of think, yeah, I wonder how that went. I suppose like God was saying something like, "Oh, hey, Muppet, you should hold out a little bit longer and see if you can get a better deal. Like, just do that. Oh, and remember, when you get up there, it's sorry, and you just walk on in."
Why are you always smiling in the newspapers?
In the moment, he forgave me my sins, and I feel all my guilt is out of me. I'm so happy. I don't live with bad memories no more. I believe she's already free. God is love.
Julio Flores. After strangling his ex-girlfriend inside his Bronx, New York apartment, he pled guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 19 years to life in a New York State prison. Because Flores was actually arrested in New Jersey, with the woman's body parts concealed inside buckets, he was extradited to Bergen County to stand trial on an additional charge, desecration of human remains. And earlier today, it took a jury less than 2 hours to find him guilty.
So tell me about when you first heard the verdict and what your reaction was.
You're not gonna believe me because I'm so happy, really, I'm so happy. Something touched me and I can explain that. I feel like happy. I can explain it. It's out of this world and all people look at me like crazy.
You're at peace?
Yeah. I'm right in the hands of God.
I really can't wait for the boys to meet this prick.
Flores was sentenced to 20 years in the New Jersey State prison system, which he will only serve if he is ever released from prison in New York. Ironically, he could serve a longer sentence for desecrating his ex-girlfriend's body than he will for murdering her.
Are you so sure, though? You've been forgiven for your crime, and how?
Of course.
Do you think you'll see your victim in heaven?
This not depend on me.
Do you want to see her in heaven?
If you got one, it's all right.
What would you say to her?
What I gonna say to her if I say to heaven? I think everybody when they go to the heaven is already forgiven, so you don't need to ask for forgiveness. Just hold and love him. The same like a God love you, and that's it. What I gonna say? Oh, I'm sorry for killing you or something? No, you don't need it because it's already done.
It's gonna be gold. Now, who's next? Now this next one, wow, he's classic too. A bit younger, Edwin. He's at 22. He's one of those DCs that's, again, quite worthless, as his crimes are that he likes to break into houses and do that thing called home invasion, and he desperately wants to believe and be forgiven, and not just one God, but any God that will let him in, as he knows that at the end of it, there's a fire and brimstone and not much else. And what Genius done did, he broke into a house where there lived a real man who had lived his life with honor and mana, selflessness, protected his people in wars far from home, a hero to all, well, almost all, because DC here decided in his ultimate wisdom and selfishness to brutally murder an 88-year-old man that God had put here to protect the weak and the innocent. But again, God was late to the party, and a human lacking the qualities of a human stepped in and killed an elderly man who everyone owes a great debt of gratitude, even us here over in Aotearoa. So Genius here, well, he's a bit worried, you see, because DCs don't take any responsibilities for what he did, and, you know, what he did was just a bit of a mistake, and that is the reason why he's going to get life inside for what he did, and that is the only thing on his mind. He, as the others, show no remorse for the being he took and the whānau he destroyed. No, this human is only thinking of himself and that magic word to get in, and in doing that, he really wants to find a God that you don't have to pray to, well, that often anyway, and he'll let you in with that secret magic word, shall we? Man, have we got news for him.
Estrada is going through some stress of his own. Several weeks earlier, he pled guilty to aggravated manslaughter for killing an 88-year-old World War II veteran. The victim, who lived alone and was killed in his home, was described by his family as a vibrant and active great-grandfather.
I really don't want to, go to hell for what happened. You know, I'm really afraid. You know, I don't want to spend the rest of eternity in hell. What had happened was I was smoking angel dust, and I had ended up in one of my friend's grandfather's house. Angel dust gets you really paranoid, and I just went crazy. I lost my mind. I went into the kitchen, and I had grabbed the pan. It hit him, I think, twice or 3 times. The velocity of it was so fast, it was so hard, that the pot in itself was bent. It was bent in. I heard him yell, turned around, and I started running. And I remember the only thing I really do vividly remember was me grabbing the wallet that he had left on a table.
6 days after the attack, Estrada was arrested when he attempted to use one of the victim's credit cards. The man regained consciousness, but died 11 days later in the hospital. He was able to tell authorities that he was sitting on his couch watching TV and was attacked from behind. Estrada was originally charged with first-degree murder. In a deal with prosecutors, he pled down to aggravated manslaughter and was sentenced to 27 years in prison. But then his case took an unusual turn. Estrada's deal was approved by a judge who was sitting in for the presiding judge while she was on vacation. When the presiding judge returned, she overturned the deal. She was swayed by complaints from some of the victim's family members that 27 years was too light a sentence for such a brutal crime.
The judge, she's more towards the family. And I understand you have to be sympathetic towards the family. They had stated that I was a monster, that I would go out there and kill somebody again.
Estrada will soon return to court to find out if the judge is open to a new plea deal or will make him stand trial for murder, a crime punishable by life in prison.
The judge, she just wants me to do life. If it goes to trial, I'm screwed. First offer was 27 years and I signed for it, but she took it back.
And what did they talk about giving you?
Life.
Are you serious?
Yeah, bro.
They can't give you life for that.
Yeah, they could, bro. It's a murder, bro. Somebody died.
How old was the dude?
He was old.
Estrada has confessed to killing the man, a fact he knows could hurt him in trial and possibly result in a life sentence if found guilty. But he's equally concerned about what awaits after life.
I really don't want to, go to hell for what happened. You know, I'm really afraid. I don't want to spend the rest of eternity in hell. I'm worried at what's going to happen after my death. We're all going to die one day, but it's where are you going to go? You know what I'm saying?
Estrada was raised Catholic, but says now he's trying something new, the religion of Islam.
You know how you window shop? That I'm religion shopping.
So you're just going to go through every religion possible or see which one?
Maybe that, whichever one I'm hungry for, you know.
And of late, Estrada has been hungry quite a bit. It is the start of the Muslim holiday of Ramadan, which requires followers to fast every day until sundown for an entire month.
You supposed to be fasting. You ate
I'm
that bologna
fasting.
sandwich.
I never ate that bologna sandwich.
You ate it.
As a matter of fact, you can ask him to 25, because I meant to ask him, you're my witness, I never ate that bologna sandwich. I feel more towards peace with Islam, because for some reason it's helped me settle my anger sometimes. And then Islam teaches about paradise. Right now it sounds good. I really don't want to go to hell.
We gotta wait for another list, an hour. So I know Estrada, he can't wait. Look at him, he can't wait to eat. This guy,
I'm eating 19 hours. That's just got me crazy.
Edwin Estrada says he embraced the religion because, among other things, he fears going to hell as taught by his Catholic upbringing. Islamic inmate Melcy Payo has served as a mentor, but says he has to keep an eye on Estrada.
You gotta watch him, because he asked me for a canteen. I'm gonna fast, let me get some honey bun. I said, okay, here, but you gotta fast.
Estrada hoped he would find peace in Islam, but now he's not so sure he's cut out for it.
I just thought I'm not gonna do it.
I've been telling you that. Nobody can force you religion to you. You know, I've been telling you that. You know, you wanted to. You told me you want to be a Muslim. I said, all right, it's fine. But then you act all, you know.
Yeah, I'm too mature. It's just too immature. It's just the bottom line. I can't wake up every day at 4. Do wudu, wash my hands, wash my face, wash my feet, wash, you know, everything, and then pray, and then I gotta do it again 3 hours later, and then, you know, all of that, and then it's just too much discipline for me, you know. It's just, I'm done with that. I don't wanna act like I'm somebody that I'm not no more. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not gonna do it. You're not gonna catch me praying at 4.
You just answered my entire time I was telling you. Look.
You're not gonna catch me at 4 a.m. praying one day, facing that way. See what I'm saying?
See, it's not even that way.
It's this way. You're right. My fault. It's been a while since I prayed.
You probably never did.
The future seems less bright for his friend, Edwin Estrada. After admitting to killing an 88-year-old man by striking him numerous times with a kitchen pan, Estrada's plea deal of 27 years was revoked by a judge who decided the sentence was too lenient. Estrada is hopeful for a new plea deal, but he also faces the possibility of going to trial for murder and a potential life sentence if found guilty. Helping him through it is mental health clinician Jackie Gill.
Because Edwin is facing very serious charges and his case has taken some twists and turns that we didn't expect, I've been seeing him the whole time he's been here.
Good morning.
We've just worked with the possibility of life. That's the reality, that he is going to prison for a long time. So to skirt around that issue would do him a disservice.
On the new attorney and stuff, I'm working trying to get something like 15 to 20 with this new attorney.
That would be a lot different than
I'd be happy.
What we planned
I
for
wouldn't
in the
be
past.
happy, to tell you the truth. I would be content.
How realistic do you think that option is, the lower?
The lower number?
I just want you to be, and you know we've talked about this all the time, is being realistic to what the situation is and realistic of all the possible outcomes.
Yeah.
So, you know, whereas 15 to 20 would be great, we've also talked about 28 and we've also talked about 40 and life.
That's crazy.
It is crazy, but...
There's no way I'm gonna accept a plea deal for 40. I might as well go to trial. You know, that's crazy. I'm not gonna do that. Like you say, you have to be realistic. At the same time, I need to look at both sides, you know what I'm saying? I have to look at being realistic, and at the same time, I have to look at being hopeful and stuff.
There's always hope, but it's a slippery slope because you don't want to bash their hope or hinder their hope, but you got to balance it with the reality.
Hopefully everything goes well, because I can't do life. Like,
The next day, Estrada leaves jail for the court hearing that will change the rest of his life.
the victim's family, I guess they want me to do life. If I was in their position, I could see where they're coming from, but I just don't think, I deserve to do life.
Just before he enters the courtroom, Estrada is summoned to a private meeting with his attorney, where he will presumably learn his fate. Moments later, he has his answer.
There was no deal today. They want to bring me to trial, and I'm fine with that,
I thought earlier you said you weren't.
I guess I can't do anything about it, so I have to accept the fact that I'm going to trial. If I lose, I end up getting probably life.
Estrada was 18 when he was arrested for this case.
step, gentlemen.
Pathetic. And a waste of space. It's out of it when you see humans that count only themselves as being worthy of living and then believe that they are worthy of getting in upstairs. It is the delusion that they hold that God is all forgiving, just as long as there are no fights at his club and as long as the bouncers do their job in the big house. The more the retirement plan looks good. So that is my take on one of the ultimate questions that religion faces, and the answer to how do they keep peace in heaven. Those are the three main rules. Don't let the wrong guy in, don't forget the pen, and the trespass lasts forever and ever. Amen.